If you're thinking about going solar, or even if you already have, you may be considering getting a solar battery too. How do they work? Why would you want one? And how much do they cost? Well, there's some good options available, but there's a lot to chew on with this one. Let's see if we can break it down. But before we do, take a moment and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos just like this one. I'm Matt Ferrell. Welcome to Undecided. The biggest Achilles heel of solar power, and it's obvious, is that you're only generating power during the day. And that's not even accounting for seasonality and weather. There's an immense amount of power that we can generate from the sun, but capturing and then storing that overproduction for later use is the challenge. I'll be diving into grid-scale energy storage solutions in a video later, but for this one, I'm going to focus on the most common batteries that you can use in your home. These can help store solar for use at night, or to just store energy as a backup system. Live in an area where the grid can be unreliable? Well, a battery paired with a solar panel system can help you weather grid outages. In fact, depending on the size of the battery and the solar panels, you could run indefinitely and not even know there was a grid outage in the first place. When looking at solar batteries, there are some points of comparison to consider: capacity and power, depth of discharge, and warranty. Capacity is measured in kilowatt hours, which is how much energy can be stored in the battery. The power is the flow of energy the battery can output, which limits the number of things you can run at the same time off the battery. This is measured in kilowatts. Depth of discharge is how much you can run the battery before you need to stop and recharge it. And warranty is exactly what you'd think. It's the manufacturer's guarantee for how long the battery will last and how many cycles the battery is capable of in its lifetime. So what are the types of batteries that you most commonly see for solar? For my research, there are a couple of common battery systems you're looking at when it comes to home use: lead acid and lithium ion. There's some others like saltwater and flow batteries, but they're still relatively new to the home market. Lead acid batteries have been around for well over 100 years. And if you saw my battery recycling video, you know that they can be fully recycled. They come in two flavors: flooded, which is also known as vented, and sealed. The biggest pro for lead acid in general is that they're super cheap, which makes them a great option for off-grid installations. A big con? They have a very short lifespan and low depth of discharge. The deeper you discharge a lead acid battery, the shorter the lifespan and fewer cycles you'll get. You're typically looking at about 200 to 1,000 cycles. Each manufacturer will provide details for the recommended depth of discharge. An even bigger con for flooded lead acid batteries: they off-gas hydrogen and require special ventilation. Or things can blow up. They also require maintenance to monitor water levels and equalize the batteries on a schedule. Sealed lead acid batteries don't have those downsides, but they cost more than flooded batteries. Lithium ion is the technology that most big-name battery systems are using, like the Tesla Powerwall. They're much lighter and more compact than lead acid batteries, and also have a much longer lifespan with deeper discharge cycles. We're talking about thousands of cycles, with the Tesla Powerwall being around 5,000, and no off-gassing or special maintenance to worry about. The big con is the price, which is much more expensive than lead acid. And as of right now, they can be more challenging to recycle too. Saltwater is still relatively new for solar batteries, but they have no heavy metals, which makes them very easy to recycle. They have a good depth of discharge with cost and lifespan somewhere in between lead acid and lithium ion batteries. And they're incredibly safe. When you consider that they're non-toxic, non-corrosive, non-flammable, you get the idea. They're just very, very safe. Flow batteries are still getting started in the home market and are limited where you're able to buy them. One example is Redflow's Z-Cell in Australia, but from my research, flow batteries are still primarily large-scale energy storage. One big benefit of flow batteries is the 100% depth of discharge. They're also fully recyclable, just like saltwater batteries. So how much do they cost? Well, get ready for some sticker shock. Typical solar batteries can cost between $5,000 and $7,000, or about $400 to $750 per kilowatt hour of the system. You'll also need to add in installation costs on top of that, so it gets pricey fast. Now, if you know what you're doing, you can build out your own system for a lot less. I'm not going to get into the DIY angle or full off-grid systems in this video. Those deserve their own dedicated deep dives, but there are some great resources online for those. So with prices like that, how can someone justify tacking that onto the expense of a solar panel system? It's going to really depend on where you live, your energy prices, and what you're hoping to get out of it. There are three things you'll have to factor right off the bat: time of use rates, demand charges, and net metering. If your utility has time of use rates, you'll have peak and off-peak electricity rates, which means you could be paying very high prices during the day, then at night you're paying discounted rates. In California, some peak electricity pricing can hit as high as 46 cents per kilowatt hour in the summertime. A solar battery takes the excess electricity that you generate during the day and stores it for use later. There's no shock there. And you probably already know that that means that you're taking full advantage of your solar power that you're generating, even at night. But some of these systems can take that a step further by letting you pull electricity from the grid while prices are low. Then during peak rate times, your system will pull the solar electricity you stored from the battery, helping to save money and reduce load on the grid at the same time. That's one of the major selling points of Tesla's Powerwall. It can be set up to take your electricity rates into account and determine the most economical use of your solar and grid electricity. Does your utility have demand charges? Those types of fees are usually determined by the total amount of electricity that you buy during peak hours or the total amount of electricity in a month. If you have a solar battery, it minimizes the amount of electricity you have to pull from the grid, which in turn drops your demand charge. Where you live, you may also have feed-in tariffs, which is a rate that you're paid for the amount of electricity that you export to the grid. With a solar battery, you'll most likely see a decrease in those payments because you're putting less into the grid. But you'll be using more of your solar generation for yourself, so you'll need to weigh the difference in savings between those two. And finally, net metering. Here in Massachusetts, I'm lucky and have full net metering, which means any excess solar that I put into the grid gets erased off of my grid usage. It's a one-to-one exchange. That actually means a solar battery system is less financially beneficial for me since the grid is acting like my battery already. However, there are a lot of areas that have reduced net metering systems or even no net metering at all. Sometimes electric companies will offer you credits at wholesale rates for your solar production, but then you're essentially buying it back later at full consumer rates. That means your solar electricity is more valuable to you if you use it at your home. That's where a solar battery makes sense for net metering situations. So what's available? Well, there are quite a few options out there, so I can't go through all of them, and I don't think you'd want me to. But there are a few big ones I thought would be good to take a quick look at. The big name that pretty much everybody knows is the Tesla Powerwall. It was originally introduced in 2015 and is currently on its second version, which can store 13.5 kilowatt hours and sustain a 5 kilowatt output. It's enough to power essential appliances for 24 hours. With a single battery starting at $6,700, supporting hardware at $1,100, and installation being somewhere between $1,000 and $3,000, it's pricey. It has a 10-year warranty and is guaranteed to have 70% of its capacity still available. The Powerwall can be configured to hold back a certain percentage of energy for backup purposes, and as I mentioned earlier, will manage all of the energy prioritization automatically for you. The system is designed to be tied to the grid to maximize your solar and take your electricity prices into account. If you're looking to go off-grid, you'll need to look elsewhere. But even being tied to the grid, you can still weather grid outages and refill your battery from the solar production during the day. Sonnen Eco is a 4 kilowatt hour battery that comes from the German company Sonnen Battery. I probably butchered that pronunciation. It has a continuous battery output of 3 kilowatts. It's a lithium ferrous phosphate battery and prices start at $9,950 and go up from there. Much like the Tesla Powerwall, its software learns and minimizes your grid usage by managing your solar consumption and time of use grid electricity rates. And just like Tesla, the warranty for the system is 10 years and 70% of capacity. The LG Cam Rescue, which is from the South Korean electronics giant, comes in capacities of 2.9 to 12.4 kilowatt hours and has a 3.5 kilowatt continuous power output. This is actually one of the most popular batteries for solar panel systems in Australia and Europe. It's still fairly new in the US, so much so that I couldn't find official prices yet, but it's looking like it'll be between $6,000 and $7,000. But you'll need to tack on an additional $2,000 to $3,000 for equipment costs and $1,500 to $3,000 for installation. So is it worth it to add a solar battery onto your solar panel system? Well, as you heard from some of those prices, it's really going to depend on where you live and what your electric utility situation is. If I were to add a battery onto my system, I wouldn't see any kind of return on investment right now, because where I live in Massachusetts, I've got full net metering and I don't have any kind of time of use rates, which means I don't see any benefit of any kind. However, that may be changing. Just last February, the Massachusetts Department of Public Utilities approved a new 3-year energy efficiency plan. It's going to make Massachusetts the first state in the country to make battery storage eligible for energy efficiency incentives. At the end of each year, the utility will reward you based on how much you reduced your load on the grid because of the battery. The state wants to increase the amount of behind-the-meter battery storage in the state to 30 to 34 megawatts. There are similar programs around the world that are building out virtual power plants by utilizing home batteries to stabilize the grid. In Germany, Sonnen has received pre-qualification for such a system, which uses all of those batteries to put large amounts of power into the grid during peak usage. A home battery in this case not only benefits the owner, but also everyone else on the grid. So there may be different programs available where you are that can offset the addition of a battery to your home. There was a program in Australia that offered interest-free loans up to $10,000 to buy batteries or solar battery systems. The program was such a hit that it was all but exhausted 2 weeks after it launched. So there may be different programs available where you are that can offset the addition of a battery to your home. But the math is a lot tougher when it comes to batteries than it is for solar panel systems in general. You'll need to do a little number crunching to see if the math works out for you, but you don't have to do it alone. In my previous video on my solar panel system, I strongly suggested using EnergySage if you're in the United States to research solar panels and installers. You can use EnergySage to check out information on solar batteries too. They have some great write-ups and reviews, which I'll include in the description. And be sure to check out my EnergySage portal for researching solar, calculating the costs, payback periods, and other questions you may have. They're a tremendous resource and completely free. You can plug in your information and request quotes from solar installers, which all get funneled into your EnergySage account, so you don't have to worry about getting flooded with phone calls. It makes it easy to compare installers, cost estimates, and energy production quotes all in one place. And installers also have customer rankings and feedback, so you can find a reputable and good quality installer. To be completely transparent, this is an affiliate program for my channel, so if you research and find an installer using EnergySage, it helps to support the channel. It's a completely free service, which I've used myself, and I can vouch for how much it helped me through the solar process. So do any of you have solar battery systems? How are they performing, and what do you think of them? If you don't, are you interested in getting one? I'd love to hear what you think. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and share with your friends because it really helps the channel. If you'd like to support the channel, there are some ways that you can do so. Want some cool t-shirts like the one I'm wearing? Check out my SFSF shop for some cool Tesla, SpaceX, Science, and Undecided t-shirts. Every purchase helps to support the channel. And a big thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. You guys are awesome. You really help make these videos possible. And if you're interested in early access to videos, behind the scenes posts and polls, check out my Patreon page for some additional details, and I hope to see some of you over there. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell to get alerts when I post new videos. And as always, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.